Welcome to the 5-Minute Disasters podcast from 5minutedisasters.com, where each week we uncover worldwide disasters in about 5 minutes. If you enjoy the show and would like to support us, why not consider buying us a coffee? Head on over to 5minutedisasters.com/coffee to see how. This is episode 10, The Challenger Explosion, NASA's Darkest Day. The Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, which occurred on the 28th of January 1986, remains one of the most tragic and widely publicized accidents in the history of space exploration. The disaster took place when NASA's Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart just 73 seconds into its flight, leading to the deaths of all 7 crew members. The incident not only shocked the world, but also highlighted critical flaws in both technical and managerial processes at NASA, leading to a re-evaluation of safety standards in space travel. The Challenger mission, designated STS-51L, was highly anticipated. It was the 25th flight of NASA's Space Shuttle program, and one of its most publicized features was the inclusion of Christa McAuliffe, a schoolteacher from New Hampshire. McAuliffe had been selected to be the first civilian teacher to fly in space as part of NASA's Teacher in Space project. Her participation garnered immense media attention, with schools around the country planning to broadcast the launch live for students. The launch had already been delayed multiple times due to technical issues and unfavorable weather conditions. On the morning of the 28th of January, however, NASA made the decision to proceed, despite concerns from engineers at Morton Thiokol, the company responsible for manufacturing the shuttle's solid rocket boosters. Several engineers had raised alarms about the low temperatures that morning, which were below freezing, arguing that the cold could compromise the performance of the O-rings, seals in the rocket boosters designed to prevent the escape of hot gases. However, these warnings were dismissed, and the launch was given the green light. At 11:39 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Challenger lifted off from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. For the first 73 seconds, the flight appeared to proceed as planned. However, as the shuttle reached an altitude of around 48,000 feet, a plume of smoke was observed trailing from the right solid rocket booster. This indicated that one of the O-rings had failed to properly seal, allowing hot gases to escape. This flaw had been exacerbated by the cold weather conditions, as the O-rings became less pliable in the freezing temperatures. The breach in the O-ring seal caused the right rocket booster to detach from its proper alignment, leading to a catastrophic failure of the external fuel tank. The fuel tank, filled with liquid hydrogen and oxygen, ruptured, triggering a massive explosion. The explosion itself did not directly destroy the orbiter. However, the intense aerodynamic forces caused Challenger to break apart rapidly. The crew cabin, still intact, plunged into the Atlantic Ocean at high speed, and the impact killed all 7 crew members. The aftermath of the disaster was one of shock and grief. The event had been broadcast live, and millions of people around the world, including school children watching in their classrooms, witnessed the tragedy unfold in real time. President Ronald Reagan was scheduled to give his State of the Union address that evening, but instead delivered a televised speech addressing the nation's grief, honoring the crew of Challenger and their contribution to space exploration. Reagan famously quoted the poem High Flight, saying the crew had slipped the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God. In the weeks following the disaster, NASA grounded all Space Shuttle missions while investigations were conducted. The Presidential Commission formed to investigate the disaster, led by former Secretary of State William Rogers, uncovered a series of managerial and technical failures that contributed to the accident. The Rogers Commission report concluded that the immediate cause of the disaster was the failure of the O-rings in the solid rocket boosters, exacerbated by the cold weather on the day of the launch. However, the report also pointed to deeper systemic issues within NASA's decision-making process, including the pressure to maintain the shuttle program's launch schedule and the failure to adequately address the engineers' concerns about the O-rings. One of the most prominent figures in the investigation was physicist Richard Feynman, who was a member of the Rogers Commission. Feynman famously demonstrated the O-ring issue by immersing a sample of the material in ice-cold water during a televised hearing, showing how the material became brittle in low temperatures. His no-nonsense approach and public demonstration helped illustrate the technical failures that had been overlooked by NASA leadership. The disaster forced NASA to make significant changes to the Space Shuttle program. The Shuttle fleet was grounded for almost 3 years, during which time extensive redesigns were made to the solid rocket boosters and other critical systems. Moreover, NASA implemented new safety protocols and revamped its organizational culture to address the communication and decision-making issues that had contributed to the tragedy. The Challenger disaster became a turning point in space travel, leading to greater scrutiny of safety measures in the years that followed. Despite the tragedy, the legacy of the Challenger crew continues to inspire. Christa McAuliffe, in particular, became a symbol of courage and dedication to education. Scholarships and educational programs have been established in her name, and the Challenger Learning Centers were created to promote science education and honor the memory of the crew. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the 5-Minute Disasters podcast from 5minutedisasters.com. If you did, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And while you're there, why not leave us a review? Also, please consider listening to our other 5-minute podcasts, which you can find at 5minuteproductions.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.